Good afternoon, everyone. This is Brian O'Leary again, and welcome to today's webinar, How to Manage and Maintain Your Audio Metadata. This is a really important topic for the book industry study group. Jonathan Fiedler, who's our operations manager, was part of a working group that Vic put together to tackle best practices in audio metadata earlier this year. And both our committees have benefited from his participation. He shared the working notes and the recommendations. We expect to come back to that later this year and develop a best practices document for the US market. But in the meantime, a lot of progress has been made by industry partners like Klopotek, which has been working really diligently to develop its systems to be able to support audio metadata. And we're privileged today to have both Nella Klopotek and Victoria Menslin from Klopotek to talk about their work in this area, how they manage it, and what they think of as best practices, particularly for managing audio metadata. With that, I'd like to turn this over to Nella to kick us off and give us a little bit of background on Klopotek's view of this important topic.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Brian. Yes, we are excited to be here today and share with you our current situation regarding this topic. And as Brian said, we do see, and I'm gonna just kick off the presentation with this, we do see that there is some emerging market, right? Audiobooks are obviously not a new format, but we do see that there are new opportunities and that the market is developing relatively fast and very promising in that area, and that we see that the audiobook as a product is not just, and I say it a little bit provocative, not anymore just a sister product, right? It's not just seen as an alternative product, but we see that it becomes more and more independent, and also with that seen as a standalone product specifically developed as an audio product. And we do see that the market develops and that the target audience shifted and changes. We see this, I think, especially, for example, a really good example is the Scandinavian market, where I think the audio sales increased so much that they nearly surpassed the hardcover sales. So we see that there's really a huge potential for audiobooks, and obviously with this we also need to be able to flexible adapt to it, and as a software provider also to support US publishers in this emerging market. With new opportunities obviously also come, here there are a lot of various platforms which develop in this area, who dedicate themselves to this area and who adapt their business models. I forgot to click on there. But yes, with new opportunities also more challenges come, obviously, and they range from various points. So question is, how do you find the best model to sell? Is the flat rates or subscription valid business models? Do they guarantee the revenue you need, right? How do you find the best licensing model between you as an original publisher and the audiobook publisher or the platform which distributes your product? If you find this relationship, how do you assure a fair royalty payments to your originators and to your authors, or to all the originators who are part of your audiobook? In the end, yes, the main question is how to make your audiobook visible on different platforms, and how do you support the various distribution channels? And as we are here, and as Brian said, it always comes down to how good is your metadata and how does your metadata support it? And as we all know, audio metadata is more than just from the traditional print product, and should also be adaptable to this. And then in the end, the main question, and the question we as a software provider and as Klopotek ask ourselves is, how can your software system support you? And how can we really create a solution that supports you in a flexible and growing business model, where you do not have to adapt a software system that is created for print products, but really can focus on your audio product. With this, I will already hand over to Victoria. This is a very brief introduction. She will show you our system. She will start with the Title Lifecycle Manager, which is one of our main Stream apps. Stream is our product line, which dedicates really to the easy editorial workflow of creating products. And yeah, with that, Victoria, take it from here and give a short overview of what we do there.
Thank you, Nella, and also welcome to me from my side. Or just here a little bit. This is now I got it. Okay, you should all see my screen now, and on the screen you see our Stream homepage, which is, as you can see, a browser-based and also app-based, and our software, of course, supports all of the traditional processes of a publishing house, and also all of the newer formats such as audiobooks. Now, when a user logs in, I'd like to do just a little bit of a navigational introduction first, so that you can all, that you don't search for our hooks, but that you can find yourself in our Stream world. Once a user has logged in, they see a collection of apps that is dedicated to their needs, and someone who works in the marketing department or in the editorial department may have a different variety of apps available, really tailored to the needs. So today I'm logged in as an editor on our test environment, and I have the editorial collection of apps available, where I will be now jumping into Title Lifecycle Manager. Title Lifecycle Manager really is the machine where you can enter all of your draft ideas, all of your title draft ideas. You can edit your ideas. You store all of the important metadata that you need to store. This is also where you trigger all of the exports that you want to do. So this is really the machine room for the editorial staff. Always in the middle prominent is our search bar, which functions like a Google search. So it's based on a Solar search. And when I just key in a keyword, it gives me immediately the search result, which is in this case our publishing radio podcast. On the left-hand side, you will find a bookmarks list. So to allow the user to have quick access into processes that he or she has been in before. And below that, you will find a recent activities list, which behaves like a browser history. So again, to allow the user to go back into processes they've worked in before. Now, I'm not making it too complicated. There are always the main functionalities grouped in tiles, also on the main side of the app. And today I'm going to go into creating a new title, which we're going to do now. We're starting with a draft idea of an audiobook. And I already, a pop-up already opened, and I choose a company group, which is of course something since we work all over the place, and we have to you always have to choose a company group, never mind. And then I choose a draft, a template, and this time for the draft for the audiobook. Templates is a functionality that we work with quite extensively throughout all of our apps. Templates help us, help the user not only reduce effort, because fields such as you can see here, like publishing hierarchies, for example, are already pre-populated when you use this template, but it also reduces, of course, errors. And so this is a really helpful functionality paired with copying mechanisms and paired with synchronization tools that helps the user to easily go through the process with the help also of a workflow that we're going to see now. I've already entered the first workflow step of our new draft idea, of our new title, or audiobook in this case. And as I said before, we have a few of the fields already pre-populated, but we'd like to add, of course, an originator for our demo product. And since all of our apps are always interconnected with each other, I can quickly go into our business partner pool and search for an author that we've worked with before. And I just choose by clicking on it, I choose the entry. So it's again populated into my entry mask. Of course, I still have to define what kind of originator we're talking about. And this is quite important when we speak about the different version types that a product may have, or even the different standalone types that we have. Because of course, we can set here that Maxi Bleibtreu is an author, and by choosing this drop down out of the drop down, but we can of course also add a narrator, or we can add a read by entry here. So I'm choosing another business partner from my business partner pool. And now what I want to do is I can either choose this person as a narrator, or I can also choose this as a read by, which is of course important for your business processes. And latest in your Onyx feed out, this makes a difference if you can choose these attributes. Now, what we're doing now is we're giving it a sequence, and we can scroll down and give this an example title. Let's do Listen to your metadata as a standalone audiobook. As you can see, because I chose the audiobook template in the beginning, everything else is already pre-populated. I have some responsible persons, and I even have one of those important standard industry classifications already set. I want to now be able to set another one. Let's see if I can go into fiction. Fiction is good. And I'll classify my title. Of course, you know the importance of industry classifications. And I also want to add an audience code, if I spell it correctly, because this is, of course, very important when you have formats such as an audiobook. Now, what else do I know at this point? We're still in draft mode. If we have talked to the author beforehand, then we might already have a short description available. I put this on my clipboard beforehand, and now I save this draft idea and let it be for a moment. Oh no, I don't, because the system reminds me to also set a short title, before I can go on. And now I leave this draft idea be until maybe the editorial conference comes up, or another internal meeting where I want to discuss this audiobook idea with my colleagues. And until then I can leave it, and once the date approaches, I can go back into the system and work on it again. So before I do that, and now this is where we focus a little bit more on the workflow that the system supports the user with. Before I go to that meeting, I might want to do a little bit extra or additional work on that title before I discuss it with my colleagues. And for this, I want to push it into the next workflow step. And I just have to minimize my videos here on the side. And for this, I click on this little button here and I say, maybe something like received an audio example from Carrie, and I submit it. And what you will see now is that the system loads and we will land in a different entry mask. also in a different workflow step, because we pushed it together into the next step, which is now preparing for approval. What has changed now, and this is true for all of the title, all of the products that you store in our database, the more the product matures, the more metadata you will need to fill in and store in the database. So the more you go ahead with it, the more you will have available. And you might have seen that on the left-hand side, we now have an additional tab available where we can enter more information. But the nice thing is that it's really catered to the needs at the moment, and it builds up the more you progress with your title. And this is true for your hardback and paperback versions, but of course also for your audiobooks with the specific information that you need to store. We will see in a moment. Now, let's continue with the process. I need to fill in some more information at this point, also because I want to prepare it now for my meeting with my colleagues. So at this point, the system tells me, well, there are some mandatory fields you need to fill out. For example, you need a planned publication date. So I set this to end of November. I've already done all of my classifications and the texts. So the only thing that I might still want to do is that I add some first planning data with my planned pre-pub orders. So I choose trade and I say marketing has already started. So I'm expecting, or not, marketing will start shortly, of course, after this title, this product was approved. And I say that we are counting with 2,500 pre-pub orders, and now I save it. What I can do now before my editorial conference is that I create a fact sheet for myself, but also maybe for my colleagues, to just summarize all of the important information that I've gathered so far and distribute it to them. So this can be done either via PDF or via a Word, via Word. And then depending on the style sheet that you have stored in the background, this is something like that. The fact sheet can look like something like that, sorry. And you can now use this fact sheet to distribute it to your colleagues, either send it out by email, or of course print it out and bring it to your conference if you meet in person. Now, let's skip a few days and say the editorial conference has already taken place and we want to go ahead with this product idea, with this audiobook. So I once again want to push this product into the next workflow step. So again, I click on this little icon here, I submit for approval, and I say, as discussed, please approve, and then I submit it. And what's happening now is that you can see that the entry mask didn't reload again in the background. This is because, and that's what I wanted to show you, we have different kinds of approval that we can work with. The first one, when I pushed the audiobook into preparing for approval, we had an automated approval process behind it, which just means that I, as the responsible person working on this product idea, am allowed to simply push it into the next workflow step. But since the next workflow step is really the workflow or the moment where we start working on the title, and we really want to make sure that we proceed with this idea, we have a 4I principle established at this point. And this means if we now imagine that I am my own superior or my colleague, I receive an email maybe, or a notification of a notification that I was asked to approve of this product idea, and I can log into the system and I find these little 2 buttons where I can now either decline this approval or submit it. And of course I want to go ahead with it, so I approve this product idea, and I say go ahead, approved. And I click on this approve button, and now the system loads again, and we will land yet again in a new, in a very new entry mask to work on our product again. Now, you can see already that on the left-hand side, a lot more tabs have now been grouped together here. And some of them you recognize from your hardbacks, for example. You will always want to add sales details, no matter the version type of your product. But also we can have dedicated tabs here that only apply to audiobooks, such as the extend production, where we would normally have Arabic pages and Roman pages and the extent on illustrations added to the title. We can here find now durations, number of tracks, file size, number of discs. So really, the system is able to cater to the needs at the moment. If we were in a moment, if we were to create a paperback, we would find different groupings of tabs here. So this is really, really nice because it helps the user to navigate through the system. The system supports the user, not giving it all of the available fields that an ERP system can have, but only the ones that are needed at the moment. Of course, the audiobook can be part of a series. It needs still industry classifications and also maybe internal classifications, texts and catchwords, and also, again, our planning data overview. Now, I don't want to go too much into all of the functionalities that are available here on top of that, but I want to show a few key functionalities that we have available. For instance, we offer a digital asset management where we can easily upload files to our products. You can see in the drop-down that there's a multitude of file possibilities here. Now, for our demo, I want to add the cover picture, and I simply click on Browse, and I find my cover image here in my folder, and I click on Save. And important information, I also want to use this in my exports. So when I click this little icon here, this allows, this will make sure that whenever I start an export, be it the automated export from, here's my, being the automated export that goes, let's say, every day to your distributors, your Onyx exports, this would be included. But also, if you want to produce ad hoc exports, such as flyers, of course, if you want to create flyers ad hoc, or if you want to have an ad hoc Onyx output, or even a generic XML output to hand over to marketing, for example, for catalog production. Yet another feature that I want to show you is our mail out functionality. We are able to generate emails and letters also out of the system directly. Of course, as I said before, because our business partner pool is linked to our title lifecycle manager, and of course to all of the other apps where the business partner is needed, we again grab the contact information from the business partner. We simply, again, choose a template, and then the email that is stored with this business partner, in this case, it's Nella, and my email address is automatically populated here, and we can send out emails such as the approval of an audio clip email, and simply send it out, and we're done. Now, for another feature that I want to show you, I want to change into a different title that we've prepared in advance, and that has a little more metadata already filled in. I'm doing it via my quick selection bar, where I can enter all of my bookmarks and recent activities. And it also tells me that it is locked by Nella for editing, which is a very important information that we understand that someone else is currently working on the title. And Nella is working on it because if you've seen maybe before and also now, there's a red exclamation mark here. And if I click on this, we will see that we have some warnings and blockers here at this moment. And what does that mean? The title lifecycle manager, with the title lifecycle manager, we offer the product quality manager. The product quality manager allows a publisher to define individual set of rules that are then validated against the title at the various workflow steps. We call those gates. So whenever a title or product changes from preparing for approval to forthcoming, as I did before, or now in this case from forthcoming to announced, which is the next workflow step, the title is being validated against these rules. This is very important because, of course, the system can flag a title at some point. In this case, when we enter the workflow step announced, the title will get a little flag in the system, and it's automatically being included in all of the Onyx exports and all of the exports that is going to all of the vendors and the distributors. And so we really want to make sure that latest at this point, all of the metadata is not only there, but it's checked also for its quality. And for this, the product quality manager is very useful because it gives me now the information that I have a few warnings and blockers. Warnings will allow me to ignore these missing metadata, and I can proceed as I did before. And blockers will not allow me to change into the next workflow step unless I have either included the cover picture for export or entered a duration for this special product that we're looking at now. And for this product quality manager, we have also a different look, a different view on the quality of the data. And for this, I'm changing into Product 360, which is our main research tool where we find, where the whole publishing house can find all of the information a product can hold in the database. And I'm also handing over again to Nella, who's going through that part of the system now.
Thank you, Victoria. So yes, I will quickly share. So it is not just important that we adapt basically the workflow and the metadata you manage and enter to the topic of audio, but it is also, as Victoria said, super important to make sure that the quality is also fitting, right? Because we want to export not just the standard metadata in high quality, but also specifically check that the fields which additionally to the format audio come to your export are also validated. And for this, we adapted not just the workflow in the title lifecycle manager to, as Victoria showed, minimize the meta fields you see, but we also adapted the quality rules and the workflows itself we sent the title through. So as Victoria showed very nicely, we basically sent the title step by step through various gates, and to these gates we apply rule sets. And some of the rule sets are just checking in your standard metadata, and the other ones we really tailor to audio. And I'm gonna have a very quick drill down to this. So you see, I now also call up the product 360. I'm in the same dashboard as Victoria just showed you, and I'm gonna see my overall product quality status. So this is the summarization of everything Victoria just showed you from the title lifecycle manager. We go through all the metadata fields and say, are they available for each gate? Do they supply our rule set? And how's the overall status? So I do see I'm in gate number 3. I already are in my step before being announced. I'm good with 90%, and I have 65 or 64 days left. But I also see that it is currently, the title is currently blocked. So I could not announce it, and I could also not export it because there are still quality issues. If I call this up, I get the same window as Victoria gets in the Title Lifecycle Manager, because this is super important to see what are the issues. I can also drill down here and have here really a detailed look into the metadata and into the rule sets I apply. So next to, as I said, the standards to see, is there an ISBN? Is the ISBN syntax correct? Is the delivery status at least in production? We have additionally seen in the audio content process created certain rule sets which deal with your audio data, so that the system is really flexible enough to adapt to your needs in this emerging market. Because as we see, there are more distributors. The sales opportunities are high, but in order to marginalize on these sales opportunity, your metadata needs to fit. So for example, yes, we can go into the audio originators, where I can just check, is there an author? Because an author I need for my product. But as Victoria already showed, the system needs to be able to differentiate between the meaning of what is a reader and what is the narrator, because behind there are different Onyx codes, and I need to check on this in the quality. Is at least one of them defined? Are they available? Have I tagged my title correctly regarding this? I also need to be able to check my audio rights, right? Because often it is handled as an alternative format, but as an alternative format to my original title, do I have all the acquired rights to distribute it? And have I entered this as metadata? Is this all sorted out correctly? On the other side of the medallion is the contract management, where we also have a module for this and are flexible enough to handle alternative formats, but also pure audiobooks as standalone from a contract side, but I will not bore you with this today. It is also, and you see this very clearly with the red exclamation mark, we do have blockers which are in my audio field. One is in my audio content. So I see my cover picture is not included for export. And I see that my audio specification is not completed. So I can check and I see, okay, number of discs, is this entered? Are the numbers of tracks entered, or is the duration entered? And the duration is something you must have in order to announce your title. This is configured for us in this moment. It could be adapted to your workflow, but we say you have to have the duration entered so that you can send it out into the various sales channels and have with this also all the metadata you need to really make sure your title is found and has the information it needs. So I can drill down to the necessary parts. It is adaptable and flexible enough to handle the formats and the needs of the formats. And if I go now back into the title, as Victoria said, I am currently working on it and I already have it open in the edit mode. I could, for example, quickly go here into the digital assets management, which Victoria showed as well. And I do here what she did before, which is obviously necessary. I mark my cover picture as ready for export. And I know the second issue was the duration. So I can say, if we say now the webinar is 60 minutes. So I say, okay, oh no, that's the number of tracks. My duration is 60 minutes. I save the title and I go back into my product 360 and I just trigger my quality check. So the system runs over all the rule sets, compares it with the metadata and says, where is it fine and where do I have still issues? And I see that my blocker is resolved. So my title is ready for export and has also automatically marked that it can be exported. I do still have quality warnings. So I could go into another widget and really drill down here. What are my open warnings to see what do I still have to do? I could also go into the detailed information regarding the workflow steps and go through my history of all my various workflows and see where do I have certain rule sets where I can still improve the metadata. But as long as it's warning, it will not keep me from exporting it. That's a very quick review of our system and what we did in the area of metadata, enhancing, maintaining, managing your metadata, and in the end, really checking that it fits and that all customizable to to the market of audiobooks. I will quickly go back into the PowerPoint. And we had this as a question, right? How can the system support you with the task of maintaining your metadata? And why is good metadata so important? I mean, I think we mentioned this. I think all of you know it, and Brian is very clear in making this clear why metadata is so important. Obviously, you have different markets. They require different metadata. The system needs to be able to manage it, and it needs to be able to manage the various classifications you have there, the specific extent versions you have. You need it for having a good visibility and search engine optimization on the various platforms where you can offer your products. You see that more and more cooperation between publishers and distribution and selling platforms emerge in this market. And with this, you need the metadata. And obviously, the Annex export needs to fulfill the international standards. And with this, BISG, Editor, Big, Booknet Canada are your best help. This is also why we are here. And from our point of view, and what we can do to contribute to this is that we can create a system and a title lifecycle management system that is flexible enough and evolving with the demands of the market, and that it is adaptable in how it visualizes the possibility to enter your metadata, but also how it can apply automatic checks for you to make sure that what you're working with really fits to your needs. In the end, some helpful resources. We do have a podcast we release. It is not a product podcast. We do not do any advertisement there. It is really just we invite people in the industry to talk about it. We had one earlier this year with Brian and with Graham Bell talking about metadata and Onyx in particular. And we released one in, I think, last month in August with Carlo Carreño, who really talks about the spike in audio, especially in the Scandinavian market. Additionally, I can always link you to or refer you to the best practice guides. Brian said he's working on it with what Big already did. There's the Audio Publisher Association. We'll be very happy to sponsor it as well. You obviously have the Onyx code list. Booknet released a very, very good video about the best 10 takeaways about audiobooks in Onyx, so I can really recommend this. And obviously use your best practice guides from BISG. That would be very quickly from us. Brian, I gotta yeah, you're there. I would open this for question and answers if there are any questions.
Yeah, we have a handful of questions now, and I want to encourage people, if you do have a question based on what you've heard from Nella or Victoria today, just put it in the Q&A box. It's a little bit easier to track there, but you can also add it to chat if you're more comfortable with that. The first question we had was, how are the workflows that you've outlined here, particularly Victoria, defined? I mean, are they configured for each publisher? Is it something that's attached to a template, et cetera?
The workflow, the title lifecycle manager never comes empty. So we have a best practice workflow that's always delivered to the customer. But of course, every publisher can define their own workflows. And more importantly, every publisher can also define what kind of fields are shown when. So this is very flexible. So you can really basically create your own entry masks at every step of the way and make it really tailored to your needs, define the various workflows that you might have for audio, for hardback and paperback, for ebook, of course, there's also a different workflow available, and each also with their own set of rules.
Yeah,
so go ahead now, sorry.
Yeah, as Victoria showed, we at the moment in the standard system, we have our Klopotek standard process, and we developed this audiobook based workflow, right? And that's tailored really to this format, and the rule sets I showed in the quality manager are applied to this workflow. So it can be extended to as many workflow steps as in the end your business needs to go through the fields you need to manage and maintain.
Thank you for that. And I just wanted to quickly add a question that came in the chat. David was asking, is there a way to get the URLs, the web addresses from your resources page that's up on the screen to
Sure.
everybody who's attended? And what we can do, Nella, if you'll just, you can share them with me after this, and we send a follow-up email to
Yeah.
all of our registrants so that they'll get a copy of both the recording today, and we'll include that information in that email.
Of course.
Let me just say that in print, and that way we can fully answer. A second question was about alerts that are, you have a number of alerts or warnings that are internal to metadata needs. I mean, is this kind of how you find all of it, or are there also batch reporting that's available at the at any stage to just sort of say, tell me all the things that are wrong with this metadata?
So we offer at the moment the view really in the UI. Obviously, there are processes behind, and we have two views. I just showed you the product quality check on a single title view,
yeah.
Right? Where really drill down title per title, but we also have the product quality monitor where you can go over a broad list of titles. So it is, I can just very quickly show you that switching into the system, it's very easy available. And there you can run like a batch over a customized number of titles. So in this case, you see here, I can actually have 37 checked ones because these are my releases of Q3 and Q4. So I can say I really want to check everything which comes out soon so that I make sure the quality fits. And this dashboard splits it open into where are we in the workflow and what is the quality of each title in this list. In theory, we can even let this run over your complete product pool. In our sales data system, I don't do this because we have a lot of various presentation titles in there. But in theory, the system can be extended. We have the process in the back end. We support them at the moment really in these standalone applications where we can also visually enhance them with charts and graphs and give you warnings with the traffic light system and have more of a visual feedback there.
The example that Victoria provided was essentially kind of creating the metadata from scratch for an audio product, but I imagine that there's a way to carry over product-specific metadata to new formats, so that if you already have created a print format, that you can pick up, for example, the marketing copy, etc.
Right. I addressed this briefly in the beginning. We have the templates, of course, that pre-populate, but we can also define in the template, because it as you said, it's different. Do I start from scratch with a draft idea, or do I want to add to an existing product family? Then, of course, I can fast forward and I don't need to start and draft. And when I use a template, then at a later point in the workflow, I can also define, if available, what kind of information should be copied over. And this is really a long list of fields that can be copied over, making this a lot easier. Plus, Klopotek, the Klopotek system also has synchronization methods in the back end. So for example, if a title is part of a product family, you define a master product in this family, and then things like texts, for example, can be automatically pre-populated or auto-populated if something is entered at the master product over all of the other family members, and other inheriting functionalities. So yes, it can make it a lot easier for the user with these mechanisms.
And I imagine as well a higher quality because you're not copying and pasting and the like. I mean, it's
yes, right, exactly.
The drop-down menus that you showed in a number of cases to pre-populate choices seem to be drawn from the fields that are in the Onyx code list. Is that correct? So you're kind of following Onyx best practices already.
Yes.
For our let's say traditional book workflow, the system what we deliver with the system is the workflow, and the rules are they're aligned with the Onyx 3.0 requirements.
Great, thank you. Nella, did you want to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, we have this, we follow, how many metadata is there, right? And we try to find the best practices or establish the best practices based on the international committees we work with. So we work with your best practices, with BISG, with BIC in the UK, and guide there our standards. The dropdowns follow these rules and obviously orient that way, but they are in the end also customizable. So we at the moment, because this is a sales environment, we have everything in there we need to show the various cases. But if you say, I really want to strip it down to just what is relevant for my formats, you could do this and adapt the drop fields there as well. But it comes out of the box with a standard which follows the international guides.
Great, thank you. So I have two other questions that I might pose to you. The first is kind of specific. It's on the audiobooks in particular, moving from physical formats to streaming and digital provision. And I think a piece of what you were showing was essentially the product project manager for physical projects. Are you also developing something or have developed something that supports a model where audiobooks are streamed for delivery?
So you can, the mask at the moment are oriented to a very traditional approach, but as Victoria said, they can be customized, right? And we work there with so-called element groups, which summarize the attributes you need to manage. And you can configure, or we support an application which can configure which attributes you want and in which order you want them. So you can really say you could streamline or create two scenarios, which is the traditional audio following the various distribution channels, and you can say I want to have a streaming direction where you customize it really to the fields you need in that area. So this is at the moment, because we work with various publishers who extend there from existing, but also in emerging markets, we collect the knowledge and see how we can enrich our solution to really support the various business models that pop up. And the title lifecycle manager is flexible enough to be adaptable to it. So I remember last week we had 2 weeks ago, we had the digital book world, and I had a similar presentation regarding this. And before me, there was someone who talked about the Lifecycle code of books to know how this works, and to, for example, include this directly as a field in our solution would be then also an enhancement we can to adapt to new requirements where you just have to tag information to your book.
I wanted to jump into that conversation at Digital Book World and talk about our educational taxonomy, which we're trying to create a market for both publishers and recipients, but that would have been a bridge too far, I think. I think it is good to,
interesting.
Yeah, it is, and we're continuing to do work on that, but that's for another webinar. I do think that the ability, certainly in the US market, both the physical and digital or streaming models are in play. In markets like Sweden, where Carla's talking about, streaming has become a much more, and subscription modeling has become a much bigger thing. So it's good to have that flexibility.
It's clear with the format, right? You have with audio, you have the possibility to distribute it way better on streaming platforms than other content, and it is way more attractive in that sense.
Agreed, and it's and it varies, as you know very well, because you operate in multiple markets. It varies by country, and sometimes even within a country, different publishers have different needs. The last question is kind of a broader thing, to talk about the purpose or the value of Stream. You kind of started with a demonstration where you were working within Stream, but maybe talk a little bit about the product offering and why it's an important development for Klopotek.
Yeah, so we started with Stream a couple of years ago, and we went away, as some know, don't have to know We support basically all fields of publishing except the finance part, where we interface. So we do from the title management, editorial, and production, the marketing, sales area. We offer also contract rights and royalty solutions, and order to cash. So we cover basically everything you need, but we saw that just the importance of software and how software is perceived changed with also different technology and requirements. So we started Stream as a product line, which builds on our industry knowledge, but is really focused on the user's need and is really focused on being an application which doesn't work like software, where you have to learn the software, where it actually does support you just with your day-to-day business, and with that is tailored to your day-to-day business. And what we do there is really, and this is also part of my responsibility, is to work with our customers, work with the industry to create applications that follow business processes and really follow workflows and support various approaches. And we split Stream into modules that are dedicated to these business processes. So the title lifecycle manager is one, because it tailors to the product lifecycle basically, and to everything you have to do in your editorial workflow with maintaining, managing metadata and the product quality, checking it. But we also have, for example, a dedicated application that's called the Blurb, where you can really have your marketing department managing your blurb text, your sales text, your biographical information, your competitor analysis, and so on. And you don't want to do this in one huge application, but you can say, okay, this department works with that app, that works with that app, and I don't have to be cluttered with everything that's there. Everything works on the same data layer, so it is completely integrated. So what Victoria, for example, did in entering the short description, you could also call up in the blurb manager and then work on it there. So it is seamlessly integrated, but it is split up into the various business processes. And with that, hopefully more intuitive and easy to learn, and supportive for the publisher. And
web-based, is it not?
Yes, it's absolutely. Sorry for not saying this. It's all browser-based. It's responsive. It supports usability guidelines. You can use it on your laptop or your desktop PC or your in the end your iPad. It is just, as long as you have an internet connection, you can call it up via the URL.
Slack for book metadata. Any last thoughts on managing audiobook metadata? Maybe one takeaway that you want to make sure that people, whether they're current Klopotek customers or trying to figure how to get their arms around audiobook metadata, should be thinking about?
It's a little bit from what we experience. It's you have to cover your basic. So audio metadata is like 80% your basic metadata as well. So you have to take care of that, and you have to have a system that really supports it, so that you don't have workarounds. Right? You don't want to have a workaround around this example narrator and read by. You want the system to know what's behind it, and you need to know also the differences and the fine tuning of the Onyx coding, because you don't want to mix it up there. So it's for me, it's an interesting part to work on, but I see a lot of parallels, or I see a lot of the basic, which I also like as well.
And Victoria, I'll give you the last word.
I can only, what can I add to that? No, you're right. Cover your bases, and then do the extra bit that is individual, and have a system that supports you.
Great. Thank you.
She said that so well, so I can't add to that.
Nella has a marketing hat on sometimes.
Right.
So. I want to thank you both for making the time today to both present the approach that you're taking to managing audiobook metadata, as well as the kind of the nuts and bolts of it. And we'll make sure to take these resources and include them in the follow-up email. Nella, if you send me the presentation, I'm sure that will be more than enough, and we'll take it from there. Thanks again, and I look forward to seeing you again soon.
Thank you for listening. Bye.
Bye.